Open our 15 minutes Q&A session. I recall that questions can be written in the Q&A pod and that we are allocating the questions on a first-come, first-served basis. I would like to recall to the speakers answering the questions to activate the micro while they're answering. The first questions we received is for Ms. Tracy. Where do you think is most of the investment in clean energy and infrastructure coming from today? Thank you very much for answering.
Yes, I think there are two important things to say about the investment in clean energy today, which are both of them maybe somewhat surprising. The first one is that something like 70% of all of the investment comes from domestic sources. So the investor will be in the same country as the project or the business. And some of these investors can be extremely significant. I mean, look at China Development Bank in China, for example. The second thing is that about 3/4 of all investment made at the moment is actually coming from the private sector, mostly utilities, energy companies, infrastructure companies. So there really is a huge amount of investment coming from the private sector already. I mean, our challenge is to continue to scale that up over the next 20 or 30 years.
Thank you, Alexandra. Another participant is asking what impact will the development of carbon markets in the region have?
Thank you. Carbon markets in Asia are at a very interesting stage, obviously quite an early stage, but China is looking to implement a national market by 2016. Korea, another significant economy, is looking to have an emissions trading scheme by 2015. And other countries, including Vietnam, the Philippines, not the Philippines, Indonesia and Thailand, are also looking very seriously at carbon markets at the moment. I think it's too soon to know exactly how they will develop, but the very important thing is that the existence of a carbon market or a trading scheme of some sort, I think helps to level the playing field. I mean, it sends a very strong price signal to the market and a very strong policy signal with regard to clean energy versus traditional energy.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. We have now a couple of questions for Ms. Meite. During your presentation, you indicated that mainly SMEs are the beneficiaries of green finance lending. Can you indicate the average amount of such lending and which are the qualifying criteria for investing in SMEs?
Yes, thank you, Giorgio. For the first question, it can vary quite a bit, the average amount of financing for SMEs. If we talk about green financing, so financing for energy efficiency, our experience from Vietnam shows that it can be between, well, let's say $1,000 up to $50,000. But most of those investments in Vietnam were in the lower end, so more in the up to $5,000. If you talk about SME financing in general, it can be much higher. It can go up to 200,000 if it's more for starting up businesses and other types of financing. Qualifying criteria for SMEs. I'm assuming you refer to the qualifying criteria that banks ask for.
Yes,
when
exactly.
a company is an SME, right? Yeah. Yes. Well, this from our research here in Cambodia, it shows that this can be quite different. Every bank has their own definition of what an SME is. Mostly they define this based on the size of the loans. In general, for banks, an SME loan is considered anything below 200,000 euros. If you look at the MFIs, the loans are usually more than 5,000 US dollars, and below that it would be the micro enterprises. If you look at other And like I said, one of the qualifying criteria here is for collateral, you need to have either a hard or a soft title. And they need some kind of banks or business records or financial statements. Usually the interest rate I explained a bit about as well. If you talk about the loan terms, that can be between 2 to 8 years, depending on the bank. On average, it's 5. And then the credit assessment process, that is, it varies a bit per bank. Usually they follow either the 5C or the FC model, do an interview with the owner, and do some estimates of the cash flow and revenues and that kind of thing. That's generally the procedure of banks. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Maite. You are really receiving a lot of questions from our participants. The second question to you is if you have any knowledge about energy saving meterings as a strategy to gauge cost savings and attract bank financing.
Yes, thank you, thank you, Giorgio. I do know that energy metering is very effective in indeed making energy.
We have some issues with your audio, Maite. Well, there is Maite is not having her audio functioning at the moment. We can continue at the moment with a question of for Ms. Tracy. Maite, please give a sign when your audio is working again. There is another question that we received for Ms. Tracy, which is related with what do you view the role of fixed income investors as in green finance, and what are your thoughts on stakeholders and the institutional investor engagement? Ms. Tracy, please be so kind to activate your micro. Thank you very much. Perfect. Perfect.
Okay, thank you, Giorgio. Well, let me talk about the first question, which was about, whoops, sorry, we just have a noise.
No problem.
Okay, we're back on. Fixed income. I mean, this is an asset class that is being discussed enormously at the moment here in Asia and elsewhere in the world. Fixed income is an asset class which large institutional investors are very familiar with. They understand the structure, there tends to be liquidity, and it's a standardized product. So a lot of people think that these kind of instruments, which some people call green bonds, climate bonds, could play a very important role in allocating capital to low carbon business and projects. And we've seen over the last couple of years 2 very interesting issuances of green bonds here in Asia, one by Korean Exim Bank last year, and very recently the first corporate issuance by Advanced Semiconductor Engineering, which is an IT manufacturing company in Taiwan. So I mean, this is a very interesting area and huge potential, I think, for the future. The second question was about stakeholder engagement and institutional investors, I think.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. In this part of the world, I think that for some institutional investors, the whole area of climate finance, as I mentioned earlier, is relatively new. And they are having to learn about new asset classes, risk structures, new products, and also engaging with a whole range of stakeholders, which is relatively new. And so I think if you look at, for example, an infrastructure project in an emerging market, it's an extremely complex deal. There may be a very wide range of stakeholders, from investors, developers, but also the local community, other businesses, local regulators, and this is a very complex process which people are having to learn to navigate in some of these countries.
Thank you very much, Alexandra. So is Maite already online? Can we make a try?
Hi, Giorgio. Do you hear me again?
Yes, you are. Perfect.
Okay.
Yes. So let's repeat the question for our audience. Some participants were asking if you have any knowledge about the energy saving metering as strategy to gauge cost saving and attract bank financing. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Giorgio. And what is maybe important to explain first is what this net metering means. It's when you have, for example, a solar panel for a business or a household, you are using that energy, but sometimes during the day or during the night you have extra energy which is not used by yourself. And if you have net metering, that extra generated energy flows back into the national grid. Which gives you either cost saving on your electricity bill, or you get paid by the electricity authority for the extra energy you generate. Now this can be really interesting indeed to make especially the renewable energy type of products have a shorter payback period and therefore become much more interesting also for businesses in more urban related areas. So in cost saving terms, yes, it can be very interesting. It is something that really depends on the country and the policies they have in different countries, whether it's feasible or not. Here in Cambodia, it's not yet happening, for example, and the government is not really working towards that yet. In terms of financing, I don't have any experience with that. I can imagine that if your payback period is shorter, it will also be more interesting for a bank to finance.
Thank you very much, Maite. Thank you very much, Maite. Thank you very much also to Ms. Tracy. As to the schedule going on smoothly, we are now passing to the second panel. Let's take this occasion to thank both speakers. Due to previous commitments, Ms. Tracy has to leave us now, and we thank her very, very much for her participation. Thank you very much to both of you. And now we pass to the second panel. The second panel is